Hello, everyone. My name is Aki Chitakov. I'm the Executive Director of YES, and I'm coming to you from an unusually quiet YES office. We are closed because of COVID, but as you can see, and I think tonight's a good example of this, we are able to continue to be there for our community and to offer our services even in these difficult times. So I'd really like to say a big welcome to our regular attendees, and of course to our new potential partners. Welcome to tonight's event. I'm very pleased to welcome you to another YES Speaker Series. Tonight's topic, of course, is You Decide What's Possible. We are proud to be doing this event with our partner, DESTA Black Youth Network. For those who still don't know very much about YES, we are essentially a nonprofit organization that for 25 years has been enriching our community by providing English support services to Quebecers to help them find jobs and to start or grow their businesses. From one-to-one business coaching to job search services, we serve over 5,000 clients a year. Please feel free to look us up online at www.yesmontreal.ca. But I think most of you already are familiar with our website address. I would like to really point out how important it is for us to be doing this event this evening. And like many of our events, it would not be possible without the generous support of our funders and our sponsors. And tonight I would like to thank and to single out the Dobson Foundation and the Canada Economic Development for Quebec Regions, the federal department that has been a very good partner to YES and to our community over many years. As most of you know, the English-speaking community is a diverse community, and tonight we get to appreciate that diversity by meeting our fellow successful entrepreneurs who happen to be Black Quebecers. Our minority communities continue to face significant barriers to employment and economic success. This is why it's so important for us to build partnerships, to empower our communities, and to demonstrate that solidarity and fair opportunity are key to a successful Quebec economy. It is my pleasure to introduce our partner and my peer, Cassandra Karanisan, who is the Executive Director of DESTA Black Youth Network. Cassandra, I leave it to you to tell us about all the important work that DESTA has been doing over the years in the Black community and working with so many different partners. I pass the floor to you, Cassandra.
Thank you, Aki, and thank you to the whole YES Montreal team for this very, very important collaboration. Special shout out to Mario, Joanna, Kathy. You all were amazing to work with on this. So this is so important for DESTA. The panel that's happening tonight is so important for DESTA, and it's so dear to my heart personally, because it's so important for our youth to see shining examples of what is possible. It's important for our youth to be able to identify with these examples, to see themselves in these examples. And so the panel that's happening tonight, I'm just very, very excited for it. We all know that we're products of what we are exposed to, and I really hope that every viewer leaves this evening with an expanded view of what is possible, expanded ideas of what is possible. That's really the goal of this particular panel and this entire speaker series. So again, big thank you to YES, and big thank you to our panelists. I have to say thank you to Dexter, Deborah, Abisara, Franz. I have so much admiration for each of you, and I really thank you for being shining examples for our youth. And I'm so looking forward to hearing what each of you have to share with us this evening. And of course, thank you. You know, it's such an honor to have CBC's Sean Henry as our moderator this evening, so thank you for that. Let me give everybody a little bit of background on DESTA as an organization for those who are not familiar or are less familiar with our organization. So we're a charitable organization that has been serving Anglophone, English-speaking Black youth in Montreal for nearly 15 years. And one of our areas of focus is entrepreneurship. So I really want to put it out there, especially to our young Black, either aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs who are watching this evening. There are so many resources available to help you on this journey, on this entrepreneurial journey, especially in these times. And we at DESTA are in a position to offer a lot of those resources. We offer mentorship, we offer one-on-one business coaching for entrepreneurs, and really at any stage of development. So whether you just have an idea and you're not even sure how to bring it into reality or into a business, or you have a business and you're looking to help on how to grow that business, we have resources here at DESTA that can help you. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out. Follow us on Instagram at DESTA BYN. So BYN is in Black Youth Network. Facebook, same handle. You can also email us at any time, hello@destabyn.org. Visit our website, destabyn.org, and we're here for you. We're here to serve you. We're here to see the community grow, the community expand. And again, big thank you to YES for all of the work that your team has done in empowering Anglophone entrepreneurs as well. And again, it's truly an honor to have this partnership and this collaboration. And I really hope that this is the first of many. And without taking up any more time, let's get into our panel. I'm really excited about this.
Cassandra, thank you very much. I couldn't agree with you more. This is the first of more steps that we're going to take together as two very community grounded organizations. So I look forward to the ideas and to the learning from each other and just improving our work, our overall work for our community. I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening, Sean Henry. You may recognize Sean as CBC's weekend late night news anchor, but did you also know that outside of his distinguished journalism career, he is also quite a free spirit. So I understand that Sean is a certified yoga instructor. He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he practices aerial circus arts. A true man for all seasons. Sean, you are a perfect fit for our esteemed panel. I want to welcome you. We look forward to many more collaborations. Take it away, Sean.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aggie. And good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you for thinking of me to moderate this panel. I'm looking forward to hearing from people who've decided what was possible for them. I mean, we're going to hear their successes. You're going to hear the bumps in the road. And you're also going to hear advice from them. I'm not going to speak for a long time because I know a lot of you want to hear from them. But I do want to start off with a call out to find out who's in the room, who's joining us tonight. We have actually questions, and there's, are you an entrepreneur? And what is your current stage of business development? So I think there's a bit of a vote that's going to happen right now that I'm going to see and get a sense for. There we go. So from the poll, we have, so are you an entrepreneur, and what is your current stage of business development? So we've got 32% idea evaluation. We've got 12% pre-startup validation. Operational startup comes in at 34%, so that's the majority of you. I'm a community member, 10%, and I'm part of an organization supporting entrepreneurs at 14%, and you are also very important. What business sector do you operate in? So 4% of you are in agriculture, forestry, mining, oil and gas. You've got 38% in arts and culture. You've got 18% in consumer products, 4% in hospitality, 2% in import, export, 2% in manufacturing, 28% in professional services, 6% in technology. So we have a good number of people in arts and culture and in professional services. That's great. All right, so we are going to hear from our panelists, and they're going to introduce themselves one by one, and then we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. So we are going to start off with Abby Sarah Mackold. She is the CEO and founder of Inheritance Curl and Spa.
I'm going to do this quick. So I started Inheritance. Many of you maybe know the hair salon. I started it actually as kind of a project because I didn't know what else to do. I'm an immigrant. I've been here now 10 years. I'm an Anglophone. And I found it very, very difficult to find any kind of work that really corresponded to my needs in Canada because I didn't speak French. So I was actually turning to YES very much in the beginning. And starting my business was the best thing I could have ever done, the best choice in my life, I would say. And it started super small. It started with a rented wall for $400. It was the last chance for Canada. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna go back to Europe. And it turned from a one-woman show, a small little tiny space, and a consultation desk into a company, a hair salon, a boutique, a product line, a franchise. What else are we? An academy and 21 employees. So it's been a beautiful journey the last 8 years, discovering so many ups and downs, so many amazing things about myself, about people in general. And yeah, I think that's about it for me.
All right, I'm back. Thank you, Abby Sarah. And next we have Deborah Hoffa. She's the founder of Coloré Design and Marché Coloré. She's also the chair of the Jeune Chambre de Commerce de Montréal and also chair of Compagnie F.
Hi, everyone. I hope it works. Great, supposed to work. So thank you, Sean, for the intro. Thank you, Abby, for the intro as well. I'm gonna echo what Abby said about being an immigrant. I've been here in Quebec for the last 15 years. I was born and raised in Haiti. I am, as Sean said, the chair and spokesperson of the Junior Chamber of Commerce of Montreal, an organization old of 89 years this year. I'm actually the second Black person to be the president of this organization after Dominique Anglade, which all of you, I hope, know in this event today. And she was president 18 years ago. So I am the chair for the year 2020 and 2021. I am also the regional manager, recently joined the TD Bank to lead the Quebec strategy for women entrepreneurs specifically, which has been my background. Entrepreneurship is my background, and I like to consider myself an entrepreneur at heart as well. As Sean mentioned, I created a few years ago a fashion line called Coloré, and more recently a nonprofit organization called YES. So I'll be happy to share more information on that furthermore during the panel.
All right, thank you. Next to Dexter Peart, he's the co-founder of Want and co-founder of Goody.
Hey everyone, and just the third person to go after Abby Sarah and Deborah. So that's my real claim to fame on the panel. So nice to be with both of you. Nice to be with everyone on this amazing little sort of entrepreneurs series as well too. I'm Dexter. Some of you might have seen me in the past with my twin brother. So usually we're together, but today I'm with you solo. And so I'm the founder of Goody, which is a marketplace that supports sustainable design and sustainable products from around the world. And before that, I was the founder of a company called Want, which some of you guys might know. Started that back in 1999 on the small streets of St. Paul. And then afterwards turned that into a very successful business that was sold all around the world. So it's just gonna be a lot of fun sharing some of those stories, hearing some of the questions that some of you might have. If I was doing the poll, I would have been an operational startup because we're back in startup life after 20 years in business. So I think I can appreciate firsthand what a lot of the people in the audience are going through in their lives. And so it's going to be a pleasure to impart some of that knowledge and some of that experience and some of those fears on each and every one of you.
All right, thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Franz Mitsulami. He's the president and COO of LetterTech, co-founder and chairman of the board of Groupe 3737.
Well, hello. first of all, thank you for YES Montreal. Thank you to DESTA for doing this amazing event tonight. And also thank you to my fellow panelists and you, Sean, for playing the game. You know, my name is Franz Mitsulami. I'm also an immigrant. My background is mostly in tech. I'm currently working on a autonomous driving tech company that is out of Quebec City. My background, as I mentioned, was always in tech, but I wasn't an entrepreneur at start. I got a head start by working with some of the best entrepreneurs in the tech world. So I got a really, really good start, good foundation, good learning from the best in the world. And I transitioned to become an entrepreneur. And I'm also, you know, in the process of transferring my learnings, my knowledge to others with the Group 3737 initiative, which was founded in 2012 as a nonprofit that was focused on helping minority founders to use technology as a means to access to crazy wealth. Let's put it this way. And delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're going to start leading the discussion with some questions, and I think we have some coming in fairly soon. The first question I wanted to start off with, I mean, you guys talked a lot about Abisara and Deborah. Most importantly, you started off as when you first that you've been here for about 15 years, and that it was. Would you say a challenge, or would you say you just really had to kind of make a decision quickly and figure out what you were going to do?
I'm gonna let Abisara start. She's been here 10 years, 8 years, 10 years now?
10 years now, exactly. No, it's definitely a huge challenge. I thought Montreal was mostly Anglophone. So I visited Montreal before, but I was very able to navigate with English only. And then hitting the business world or just trying to get a job. I have a master's in communication and political sciences, and I worked in my professional field for about 4 years. So I was a project manager in Europe, and I made good money, and I consider myself a professional. And I really wanted to go back to that field. And every time when I had an interview, I got almost to the last round. And then it was a white Quebecer that got taken that was Francophone. And the reasons you too Anglo, you too young, well, they would never say that, but too Black, and it was definitely part of it. And it was super, super frustrating. My ego got like a huge hit. I felt useless. I felt unaccomplished. I think I definitely experienced a slight form of depression because I was not used to not working. So I think I'm somebody who validates herself, or I don't know, I identify myself quand même with like some kind of achievement, and all of this was gone. So being here was very hard for me, and getting to know other people. And then I realized, you know, I had to really lower my my credentials. So I started going to job interviews only saying I have a high school diploma. And that was like heartbreaking. So to really kind of diminish everything you have accomplished. And I did the thing that I swore myself I will never do, go back to call center. Got screamed at by Québécois parce que they couldn't understand my accent, because at that point I was already learning French, in French course, trying to write French. It was a disaster. And that was also the time when I turned to YES. And then I became an entrepreneur much more because I just didn't know what else to do. I was like, I really, really wanted to turn that passion into something. I'm like, let me see if this works out. If it doesn't work out, no problem. I'm going back. I'm going back home. Like maybe just wasn't for me, this whole journey. I thought it might be good, but maybe it's just not for me. And then when I realized the first launch and my $3,000 that I had saved, which was all I had, I was like, okay, I'm going all in, $3,000. This is what I give it. And then I made $3,200 in the first 10 hours. And that was that sign I was waiting for from the universe. Okay, there is something that you have to do here. There is maybe a use, you know, for you to offer your services.
Sean, I don't know if you want me to answer. I do see a question in the conversation about the challenges of starting Coloré.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, where Abby Sarah's story and mine connect is the fact that when I came here from Haiti, I had a very precise idea in my mind. I came here and I said, I want to study in entrepreneurship, build a company, sell the company, go back to Haiti after 15 years. So that was it. So today, 2020, this was supposed to be the year for me to go back to Haiti. So I came with a mission. And I know this, I don't know if we'll have time to go deep down into that aspect of the conversation in terms of representation, because of course, I grew up, as I said, and was raised in Haiti. So in terms of representation, I mean, our president is Black, the teacher's Black, the doctor's Black. To me, there were no limitations to what Black people could do or should be doing. So when I came here, it was like, sorry, I didn't know I was gonna clap, sorry. I was like, okay, give me this, I need to do this, I need to get on with this aspect of life. So that was my mindset until I think 3-4 years in. I remember, I think clearly 28, 29, I'm like, oh, that's not how it works. Okay, there's an issue here. Okay, it's not the same. Okay, things are a bit different. So I kind of had to learn how to manage that aspect, and I'm still learning, to be quite honest. And that's one of the issues that I have to say were my main obstacles, even starting Coloré. And I will add to the fact that I started Coloré as I really wanted to know how to do fashion, how to sew, and how to draw. I never learned how to do it. So that was one of the biggest challenges, is to go and take classes for 1.5 years just to know how to draw clothing and accessories. So that was not my background at all. So that was one of the main, to be able to respect the fact that that was not your background, Deborah, that you should go and look for people whose expertise that is. And I think that was one of the big issues. But to connect with Abby Sarah's story about immigration, it was 15, you have 15 years to make it or break it, and then go back to the country and live happily ever after. So that was it.
Question for all of you. And what would you suggest to new entrepreneurs in terms of gathering funds for a startup? Dexter, you want to take this?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. I think that it's the toughest part, right? I think whether it's my story, whether it's Abisar's story, whether it's Deborah's story, I think that what you understand really early is that this is tough work. And so for everyone who's listening in, there's no single path to getting to where your goals are, but all of the paths include funding. And so when you're thinking about funding, you have to, I think it starts out, I'll speak for myself. If I go all the way back to 1999, when we had a little shop that was 600 square feet, and my twin brother left his job and I stayed in my job. So one of us kept our job to be able to pay the rent. And that was kind of how it was, you know, it wasn't a guarantee. You weren't going to the bank for a loan. It wasn't going to happen. We were able to lean on our parents to be able to give us like just a little bit of startup funds to be able to get started. And I think that's probably the genesis of most entrepreneurial stories, is to start out with the first 5,000 or the first 10,000 or first 500, and then try to see where you can get from there. It's definitely not sustainable, but I think that in the beginning, my advice to all entrepreneurs, and I speak to quite a few still in my life right now, is to set up an extremely strong business plan, get in front of the banks early, get in front of friends and family who are going to believe in you and who might be able to support you, and then build from there. I mean, I think now we're in a world where money's a little bit looser, and you see sort of venture capital money and all of these other sort of institutional investors that are looking to invest in projects. But it always starts with a really good idea, and then it's about trying to make that one first step, which is to get operational, try to find a way to be profitable and tell a good story. It's by no means easy.
Franz, I know you wanted to say something, and I know recently you gave an interview to Forbes saying that diversity is not an issue, but lack of equal economic opportunity is?
Yeah, so I guess startup capital shouldn't be an issue. In my mind, if startup capital is an issue, we have a problem with the business. It's scaling capital that's the issue. Startup capital, there are so many resources. You can get free money if you have a good mind and you're willing to knock on doors. There's PME Montreal. There is all the incubator accelerators in Montreal. They get free money. Just knock on the doors. Emploi Québec, Immigration Canada, Export Canada. I mean, Ministère de l'Innovation et de l'Économie. So there's lots of startup capital that's accessible. I suggest when you start out, you use as much non-dilutive capital as you can to build value in your portfolio, build value in your company. Then you go out to banks, to traditional banks as a first step. And then there are non-traditional banks like BDC, like Fonds Afro Entrepreneur. There are non-traditional, Fonds FTQ, there are non-traditional financing. They're more expensive, but there's still access to capital. If it costs you 10% to generate 100%, that's cheap money, so go get it. The other thing too is that I'm astonished that I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who want to get started, and then they say, well, I need $50,000. And then I ask them, do you have a parent, a mother and father? All right, both my parents, and they own a taxi, they have a restaurant. Well, for God's sakes, ask them for money. They should be able to give you that starting point in life and or help you. Some of you actually are homeowners. There's equity that's accessible. So I think there are many levers that you can use to get access to what I call startup capital. And you should try to exhaust as many as possible, because the next step is you go to a traditional bank, they're going to ask you, what did you put? What's your investment capital? Where are you starting? What are your financials? Show me you have progress, you have customers. And that's when it starts to get dicey.
You know, the federal government recently announced a new loan program for Black entrepreneurs. How do you think that helps?
Well, it's going to help tremendously. I think it's a great step in the right direction. It's interesting. We did a small informal study with a couple of banks during the pandemic of all the 40,000 government-backed loans. Less than 10% of the loans went to Black-owned entrepreneurs. So you can imagine, you know, what happens is the program was designed to fail anyways, because banks don't lend traditionally to Black entrepreneurs because they tend to say that the failure rates are high, or business areas are not of interest to the government: service industry, arts and culture, restaurants, and so forth. So therefore, they don't necessarily appeal to those banks. And so therefore, the program was designed for you to go back to the same bank that said no to you from the beginning. And so now you go back in the COVID time, the issue doesn't change. It's still there. But I think this program is designed with success because it was designed by people in the Black community to address an issue of Black entrepreneurs.
Speaking of success, at what point did you start to feel success? And this question is addressed to all of you.
I'll jump in. I never feel.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I probably have the biggest imposter in the room. I'm always paranoid that I will not succeed. So therefore, I feel like I'm always have to sprint, always have. And maybe it's because of my upbringing. I come from a family of 13. My father was pro-life. So therefore, we had the, you know, I always felt I was the second to last. So I always felt that I had to run faster and always be hungry because there was nothing left. But the point here is that you know, from my perspective, also professionally, I always felt that I always had to prove more. I always felt that I had to do more than my colleagues and my peers. I had to, if someone did 2, I had to do 4. And make sure that I was visible enough so that people knew that I was doing the 4. And so therefore, I never felt that I succeeded because I always felt that it was a slippery road.
I'm just gonna jump in right there because a lot of the things that Franz just said made me smile, and I can in some way relate to them. We are 4 in the family, so my father is a little bit pro-life, but not to the extent of Franz's father. And I think it depends on your definition of success, because if I take my case, I don't think I ever reached that level, and I don't know when I will be able to reach that level, and that's an issue. And I don't think that's a good thing, because I still hear my mother not every night, but pretty much every week, telling me to slow down, telling me, okay, you've proven that you can do it. Okay, you can calm down and maybe come home, maybe for a change. And I think it really, when it comes down to it, what is your definition of success? Is it checking a lot of the elements on your bucket list? Is it making a lot of money? Is it creating the life that you desire and that you want? And I think in some way, I am leaning towards that right now, because I've accepted a lot of things, but it wasn't that 5-10 years ago at all. I always felt like I had to do more, do better, because I have 2 great sisters who have been excellent in school, and we all went to the same school. And every time they would compare us, saying, "Oh, Deborah, your sisters have done 10 out of 10 on that exam. How come you only are doing 8?" So I've always felt that I should do more. So it really depends on your definition of success. And I think it also has to do with accepting a lot of things as success. Just being able to go home in the home that you created, and being able to do what you want. I think that is a form of success, even if a lot of people wouldn't agree. But I think it comes with age.
Yeah, it definitely does. And you know what? This whole thing about mom always wanting you to come home, that never changes. That's it. No matter how old you are, the door is always open. I have some specific questions. Sarah, I have one for you. Your business involves making products, franchising, exporting to global markets. Where did you turn to get information on how to do it all? And what was the learning curve like?
Oh, wow. That is a lot in one question. Very quickly, I would love to go back to the question even before success, because it was about the beginnings. And I thought it was, I think my story is a little bit different in the sense of I started with very little money, like really with $3,000, you know? And I loved what Franz said, because it's like you have to become creative or resourceful when you start your business. And I think that's part of the whole profile of an entrepreneur. And looking back, after I did take the loan and everything, but I had 1.5 years where I had to just struggle by myself on my own. And I think it was the biggest blessing that I ever had, not to have too much capital thrown at me or at my disposition. Why? Because starting off with a Facebook page, starting off, and I saw many of you guys offer services, even better, because for products you need startup capital, but for services, you are the product. So whatever it is that you offer, many times doesn't require that much money, that much startup capital. And I just want to go back to that, because sometimes that we create that mental hurdle, that blockage that kind of hinders us to move further. And if you start small, you're able to grow. And you're able to really grow by the measurement of your success, by the demand. You can study your market, be part of pop-up shops if you can't afford your own store yet or your own storefront. But you can really test your ideal customer. What do they like? What do they not like? They give you feedback. All of this is practically for free, or it requires very, very little money. But that knowledge, that feedback that you're getting is absolutely essential for the journey that you're about to take on, offering a service or a product that is high in demand. And I concentrated on something that I felt was really in demand, because it's natural hair products. I have natural hair. And I used to ask people on the streets, like, what are you doing? Like, where are you getting your products? And I tell the story always because it was so much in my mind, as in I had to call this online shop owner in order to get, because I'm stingy. So I didn't want to pay for shipping, right? Because especially if it's a Montreal company, I was like, how is it possible that there's only one person who offers natural hair product and I have to meet them in front of Indigo on her lunch break to buy myself a hair portion, like a hair cream. So that stuck in my mind because obviously for me, I'm like, I can't be the only one needing that. And when you discover whatever your passion is, it's really important that your passion is paired with a need that is not only your need, but it's a need of many people. And by asking other people with curly hair how they go about it and them having the same issues, I realized, okay, maybe there is something I can do. And I tapped into that niche, into a space. I didn't really know Montreal very well, but I knew it didn't have a space for Black natural hair products or curly hair products. And that's why I think before starting with I did the BDC loan afterwards. And, you know, yes, Franz, I agree. It's better to pay 10%, but then 45,000 that I borrowed, paying back 75,000, it did hurt me. Again, I said I'm a bit stingy. That does hurt me as an interest, but it was the backbone of why I am here today. So it was exactly that moment where I was able to, you know, it was only possible with that money that I was able to go to the next level. So it is sometimes necessary to do steps like that, although they, you know, they really, really make a lot of money on you. And yeah, Sean, sorry, what was your question? Your 3-part question, all of the challenges, what? Do y'all remember?
I'm gonna unmute myself. No, I have it here. I wrote it down. So
okay.
I would say like what was the learning curve like? But I think you addressed that mostly, right?
Yeah, I think that the lack of money gave me a chance of really being in that learning curve. And I think one of the biggest things is, I mean, I didn't have a business background, so I didn't have an MBA. I didn't have family members that are entrepreneurs. I couldn't look left and right and see how it was done. So it was a really, really, it is still a very, very important learning curve to kind of walk every step very consciously and trying to see as much as possible and take my feedback from my customers and from all of the falls that I'm still doing all the time. The learning curve is so important because, again, it kind of always puts you back on track. So you might sidetrack and you might try to do other things, and then you realize, but nobody's interested in that, Avisa. So let's get back to the beginning. And one of the biggest challenges I find for small business that have great ideas, that have great services, that they offering is success that is too quick and too early. And that was one of my biggest challenges actually in the beginning. After, so I had the little boutique, the little space, the wall, and then I moved into my own store and I offered hair care services. I had 2 chairs and it was September we opened. By December, we were booked up 3 months in advance and people started getting frustrated, but really, really frustrated. So we
growing
had
too quickly.
Growing too quickly and not able to supply to the demand. And those are things that sometimes we don't prepare for. So try to like create the demand, but also trying to find ways and be prepared on how I'm going to be able to keep up with my supply.
Wow, interesting. Dexter, I have a question for you about vision. When you launched Want, did you have a vision of where you wanted to be in 20 years?
The answer would be a definitive no. We were, I think, you know, what I would say, and it probably sort of comes off of where Abhisar was that we always had this vision of sort of thinking big, but going slow. We were young, like I'm 48 now, so I've got 20 years or 25 years of entrepreneurial history in the sort of background now. But when we were starting out, we were looking at the moment. It was a little shop in Old Montreal. We had found these products from around the world that we thought were super compelling. And we just opened up the store and it was $700 a month. And that's all we had to figure out was how to pay for the goods. We worked on the floor and then you just take a step. And I think, you know, in business, one of the most underrated sort of entrepreneurial elements is just being able to put in the dedication and the hard work in those early stages. And I think for us, it was, we really have always thought we were doing something that was a little bit ahead of the curve, but in the moment you just put in and then you reap the rewards slowly but surely. And so I think in a lot of ways we're sitting on the other side of it. We had this very early, we had this saying internally about always being consistent and always being essential. And those are 2 things that I think have lived with us, Sean, for the last 20 years. And I think when people think or look at the portfolio of work we've done, they would probably say that those guys have always been consistent with how they sort of approach business. And they've always focused on products that or services that people would deem somewhat essential. And so we've been able to create value out of that over the course of the last couple of decades. And it's been sort of successful for us. And then back to where Franz was about just this notion of success. I think we started out again. We had the opportunity to exit or sell our business 3 years ago, which was like a real weird, difficult thing because you worked on something so hard and so long, and you put so much sort of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then you let go. And I remember I was telling this story to a friend of mine, and I was like, he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know. I kind of feel good because we just, had, we sold our stake in a company. But at the same time, I feel this certain loss." And he was like, building is also about planning to let go. And I hadn't learned that. I had sort of always thought building was just about building. And I think one of the things, and Deborah spoke about it as well before, is to have a vision of building something that doesn't have to be just about you. And then if you make it not just about you, I think you build a smarter business that has the ability to scale beyond just what your vision is of it to be bigger than that. And so that was one of the key learnings that we've had in the last couple of years. It's exciting for us right now because at 45, we were able to come out with an idea I would deem success for myself as being, that's kind of cool. We had this idea 3 years ago. It's working really, really well, which is goody. And that's successful for us. And so this time around, we made a goal. We made a decision that we were going to totally get excited about all of the small wins that we didn't get excited about the last time around, and we're enjoying them now. So I'm a little bit with you on that one, Deborah. Enjoy the steps. It's all about the journey.
And Deborah, I actually have a question for you. What are the best ways to expand your network?
Ooh, I could go on and on, but I just want to, if you will allow it, Sean, want to.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
That Dexter said, and I think I haven't shared that a lot publicly, but I think one of the elements that Dexter mentioned that is so important. I know a lot of you listening today or entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs is the amount of sweat, tears, and effort, energy that it takes in the first years. And I was not able to give that because I was so impatient. I remember starting Coloré 2012, 2013. I gave 5 years, and after 5 years, I got tired that it wasn't at the level that I had dreamed it was going to be. And then I got a lot of different elements about imposter syndrome, saying, well, you have no business doing fashion, Deborah. You have no background in fashion. And then I started telling myself a lot of those stories. Well, remember, 2020 is coming up fast. You should be going back to Haiti. So a lot of the elements in those first years were so, determinant in the story. And I feel like this is something that we don't insist a lot on. How much energy, how much work, and how beneficial it is to stick after those 5 years, those 8 years, because that's when you actually rip what you sow. So I just wanted to go back on that aspect because that's very, very important as a lesson. I think for a lot of you listening today, if you feel like you're overwhelmed, you feel like nothing that you're doing is going in the right direction, sometimes it just means that you're doing something and that you should continue on doing. But then again, somebody mentioned that it's a good Franco and Anglo list. So I'm gonna do a little Franco section. Tout dépendant. I learned from a conference, and I always remember that sentence. And every time I try to tell myself that, persévérance, mais pas l'acharnement. So there's a very thin line between perseverance et l'acharnement. So at some point, if you feel like you're working on something that is not working, but you should make sure that you are persevering for the right things and not just sticking on something that doesn't work. So to go back to your question, Sean, about how to build your network, I think it goes, and of course, all of my answers will be pre-COVID era. And maybe I should adjust a few answers now that we're living in the era that we're in right now. I think it really starts with getting to know what you want. What you really want in terms of developing that network. What is it you're looking for? For me, it was really entrepreneurship, because it was my goal, it was my passion. I wanted to know not only entrepreneurs, but people who work in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So that's how I first did my research and knocked on doors, sent emails. What also helped me, that was 2009, 2008, was I started a blog on entrepreneurship. So that actually opened a lot of doors for me to know who were the important networks, the important people in the field as well, and got me through the doors to run interviews and whatnot. And I think that's also a second thing that you should do. A third thing is, of course, going to events, sharing ideas, meeting new people, but again, always with a target, with a goal in mind, because you don't want to be, because there's only so much you can do. There's only 24 hours in a day. You don't want to be meeting a lot of different people that can never, help you with the idea, with the objective that you're setting. But also, and I know that's going to sound like a little paradox, also allow some space for discoveries, because it's not because you're only going to meet 100 people in entrepreneurship, or 99 people in entrepreneurship that are going to bring you the right answers that you need. Maybe that one person in arts and culture could actually give you the answer. So I think that would be what I would suggest a lot of people listening. Of course, one of the reasons why I am the chair and spokesperson of the Chino Chamber of Commerce is I have been involved in the milieu des affaires for the last 10, 12 years. I've done it all. Jeune Chambre de Commerce Haïtienne, organisme communautaire, everything I've been involved. And I didn't really count my hours, because for me, it was a passion, it was a goal. It was for me a way to know how la culture d'affaires au Québec works. I wanted to know the key people, the key actors, and move my way up.
All right. Franz, I have a question for you, but did you want to add anything to what Deborah said?
I was just going to suggest that, a lot of times, us in the Black community in the greater Montreal, we don't travel outside of Montreal. And the province of Quebec in Canada is massive, and there are opportunities everywhere. And they're just looking to discover, they're waiting to discover you. And so I find, networking, people tend to network in, let's say 1 degree of separation. I found the most effective networking is when you get out of your comfort zone and go someplace where you've never been and force yourself to actually, talk to people, find out what's going on, find out what works, what doesn't work, what helps do they need, and how can you help? You'll find out that in the regions, they need help. They may not like your skin color, they may not like your accent, they can't pronounce your name, but man, they'll welcome you. I'm telling you, I've lived it.
That's right. I've
been offered free housing to move all over Quebec,
I lived in Quebec City. It was quite the interesting experience. I lived between 2002 and 2005. It is quite the interesting experience, but yes, they are always looking. They're great people out in the regions. And of course, none of that would have been possible had I not left Montreal. I do have a question for you though. As an angel investor, what do you look for in a startup who is looking for funding? How important is the entrepreneur story, the diversity of their team or their origins in your decision making?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what is the most important is the entrepreneur attitude. So honestly, I don't care where they come from. Of course, at Group 3737, we look, we help, entrepreneurs that are minority background or from people of color. But the reality is, the mark of success will be you, the entrepreneur, not the business, not the idea. It's you, the person that's driving the business. So to me, it's more important. I did a panel with some entrepreneurs the other day, and the entrepreneur put up a video because they were too busy to show up. So you want me to pay attention to your business? You can't even show up. So it tells me the attitude. You're not willing to sacrifice. What you were doing elsewhere was more urgent. Maybe it's good reason, but the message you give as an entrepreneur is that your business isn't your priority right now. And I think to me, it's all about attitude. It's all about the personality. It's all about the personal equity that the person is willing to put, the extent you're willing to go to be successful. And that is a sign of success. So you may be, your business may fail, but as an entrepreneur, if you have the right skills, you'll never fail. And the right attitude, sorry, not the skills, the attitude.
This is a question for all of you. How can we help support minority-owned businesses in a meaningful way? Who wants to go first?
I think it starts with, I'm going to go first. I think it starts with raising awareness about our huge power as consumers. Black people represent such a high percentage, I know from my business definitely, of consumption power. And being aware of where I want to support with my consumption is actually of huge importance. We do it, I think it's also the job of entrepreneurs when you have a business to support other Black businesses, other minority businesses. We made it a focus to have 99% Black owned hair care products at our salon, and there's many that are not. And I definitely chose the niche because the different levels of support and empowerment, it's not only to create, let's say, a safe space for Black and curly people to come in, but it's also on making it possible for them to support other Black Canadian women, other Black Canadian families by spending any dollar. That's my team of 21 Black people or people of African descent and minorities, but it's also really about the products. Where do they come from? And to get a little bit more knowledgeable and make conscious decisions in where you buy, who you support, and understand that this is huge. You're giving accordance with every dollar you spend. And I think in Montreal, we slowly waking up to that power. And I think it's like us as consumers and us as business owners, it's important on all levels.
I mean, I would just add onto that, I think we're in this really, really important time right now, Sean, where there is just a heightened awareness and a heightened appetite for Black-owned businesses and Black-owned brands. And so one of the struggles that I think was for the last years, or sort of pre-COVID and this sort of heightened social unrest and social injustice that we're all seeing around the world right now, is people just didn't care or didn't know how to find. And I think that it's incumbent on all of us as entrepreneurs, but also on just citizens at large, to just be a little bit more curious. And I think that now more than ever, we're seeing Black-owned brands come to the fore more than they ever have been before. And now it's about us as a community, but also in a greater community, to keep that momentum and to not let this be just a moment so that, you know, Aurora James can be on the cover of Vogue magazine for the month. This has to be sustained, and for it to be sustained, it needs all of us to make sure that our partners are doing their part, to make sure that the consumers see what we're doing. I think it's, you know, the Q4 is here. It's time for us to shine right now and show all of the things that we're capable of while people are looking and listening. And I will say to some of the young entrepreneurs and the ones that are in sort of that discovery stage or operational startup stage, there are a lot of companies right now that are waking up, big companies and small companies, and they're realizing how far behind they are on having diversity and inclusion in their portfolio mix of products, brands, people working for them, or in their supply chain. And they have a fiduciary responsibility or a cultural responsibility to their teams to have a more diverse landscape of the products that they're selling. So it is an opportunity, and I think it's one that needs to be leveraged by the Black community at large, of really saying, this could be our moment where people can listen, and this could be our moment where we can make a change. And so we're excited about it in our company. We spend a tremendous amount of time, a little bit like Abisara was saying, to make sure that we have a huge assortment of products that are designed, created, made, owned by Blacks and people, Indigenous and people of color. So it's a very important part of our business. And the truth is, it resonates really well. We're doing better because of it. It's not just a marketing initiative. This is what drives our business. It's sort of authentic, foundational to how we run our company. And I think it's the way of the future. So I'd say that everyone who's listening in, you're actually set up really well for the future. And I think that there's more people that are going to be listening to the goods and services that you guys are selling now more than ever. It's a long road and a hard road ahead, but I do think there's this window of opportunity where the banks are listening more than ever, investors are listening more than ever. And to Franz's point, the people behind the company are what is going to make the company. And so think about, how your product or how your service really differentiates itself from all of the others. And that's your way forward, and just sort of push forward.
I was gonna, build on top of what Dexter just said. I mean, it's an incredible window of opportunity. I'm not sure how long it's gonna last, but it's an incredible window of opportunity. And I think it goes, of course, one thing that can be done is this $221 million that was spoken for the Black entrepreneurs across Canada. Banks have a fiduciary duty to at least match that. $200 million for each of the top five banks in Canada, it's nothing. It's not even 1 month's worth of profit. So it's absolutely nothing. And so therefore, they have a fiduciary duty to at least match that. If you do 1.3 million Black Canadians, 220 million in a snap goes by. So you don't build sustainable wealth. You don't change the course of history with 220 million when there's 1.3 million. You change the course when every bank, every large corporation decide to do something about it. One way that the large corporations can jump in, when the banks jump in, I know they will, they have to, because if they don't, it will be a shame, and we should shame them for not jumping in. The large corporations can jump in because large corporations like the city of Montreal, they spend $1 billion a year. $1 billion. Imagine if 30% of what Montreal spends as a city goes to minority-owned business, minority and indigenous businesses. So we have the power to make changes. We just have to choose where we put our efforts. And then where opportunity comes, well, we have to be prepared. And so for me, one of the biggest gaps that we have as communities is our businesses are too concentrated in the same areas. That's one thing. Second, that we're not bold enough. That's one thing. When you come from a large family, you have to be loud. Otherwise, you don't get a voice, and especially if you're the youngest. So, hey, I come from a Caribbean family, so I tell you.
Or I'm going to interrupt you and say the second, not the youngest, the second, the middle children.
Yeah, that's even worse. Yeah, that's true. And so you have to be bold. So you have to position yourself in where the money's at. So I talked about networking. Networking, again, is effective when you go where, the need is. But also financing or business opportunities, you have to put your business in a situation where large capital want to be in. So for an example, restaurants, Uber Eats, it's all about delivery at the end of the day, but Uber Eats has raised billions of dollars, right? They acquired Postmates it's a $2.4 billion merger, and it's all debt. It's all about delivery business. WeWork, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. What is it? It's rental. But what did they do? They took a very large market segment and digitized it, democratized it for the mass, and took excess capacity and made it available to everyone. And so from my perspective, we have that power to be bold in our businesses. It doesn't matter if you are in traditionally concentrated Black businesses, you got to think of global. You got to give investors a reason to invest in you because you've got a global potential. And I think that's the difference, but that's what I've seen with Want Les Essentiels. Because when I got into Air Canada, the little pouch that I got was Want Les Essentiels. And when I went to New York, what did I see? So, you didn't have a regional business. You built a foundation where you could scale globally. And I think that's the difference in my mind with very successful entrepreneurs and those that lack the scalability. And like I said, now is the time.
I really couldn't have said it better than what Dexter and Franz said. The two aspects that I wanted to highlight were actually vision and network. And I think vision, and I love the use of bold that Franz just mentioned, because sometimes, and I think we've talked about it already, the fact that a lot of minority or Black businesses are concentrated in some industries and very small businesses and majority. And I think that's because some of us, and I say us, and that's very intentional, some of us like vision to do something bold, something big, because we do get influenced by the fact that we see the news, we don't think it's possible now anymore. So I think that's one thing that we desperately need, to be able to dream big, but also make it happen, because it is possible. And with all the context that's happening right now, especially with the $221 million that was announced. And the second aspect was network. I've already spoken a little bit about it, but within network, what I wanted to say even more was the aspect of visibility and opportunity. And Dexter and Franz already mentioned that right now there is this wonderful scope on Black and minority businesses. And I think it is a great time. It is a great timing for us to benefit from that opportunity if our businesses are ready to be highlighted and to be promoted and to have that visibility. And just to add to another note that was mentioned, I felt like these men were targeting me when they were talking about banks and whatnot, but I'm just joking. And I just want to say, specifically at TD, and it's funny that we're discussing this right now, because just this afternoon I was discussing with colleagues, and what Dexter mentioned, it is a reality. A lot of companies, big corporations are looking for ways to diversify their supply chains because they have an obligation to do so. And right now the discussion is they're realizing that the number of suppliers that they have in their book of contacts, in their list, they're not really representative of the society of Canada's population. So right now the clock is ticking, and they are looking for options. They're looking for ways to, add more color to those data, because not only the internal managers are asking for that information, but also the federal government is asking for that information right now. It's not just, between colleagues and managers, we just want to put out an ad today. No, you are accountable for that information, and we want to know. We want to have those numbers today. And if you don't have them, you don't really look good. So you might perdre la face in front of a lot of important
so you're saying I didn't want to interrupt you because your answer was so great. So you're saying that there's more accountability now.
Oh yeah. You know what? There always has been. It's just nobody has respected it because there was nobody looking specifically. Now people are watching and people want answers, and they want answers now.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and I think that's such a great point, Deborah, people want answers, people are watching, but also companies and institutions need to show and promote that they are part of the change. And so in a lot of cases, and I think we've all had this in our own lives, they don't even know where to get started because they don't know what the directory looks like. And so being a part of that change is an opportunity. And now, as much as we'll be thinking or talking about the products and the services that you guys are selling and how easy and capable you are to maybe start up a Shopify account to sell directly, online, or to sell in your store, in your community, there's also business to business opportunities. Think about, the TD Bank right now that would love to be able to hand out, items that are made by a Black-owned business or brand to show that they are part of the solution. So think about, like, when I'm thinking about networking, I always suggest that you don't just network within your bubble, you move out to try to find strategic people to network with that are not necessarily just money people, but people that can expand your network, because that's how you amplify. And so think about just show up at the bank. I don't know if you can do this, Deborah, but I have, show up at the bank and say, I might not be ready to be coming to the bank right now, but what would it take for me to come to the bank when I'm scaling my business? And then try to understand what that threshold looks like. Do I have to be profitable? What does profitability look like? What are the different things that the bank is going to ask of me when I come to that point? It's the time to Franz's point, to think big and to be bold, and to just do those steps. There's so many opportunities for each and every one of you that are out there. You're going to have to fight for this space, but it's there for the taking.
So we have some questions that have been typed in. So I'm going to read a couple of them and we'll get some answers from you. So there's one question for Deborah and Abisara. What were your biggest challenges as women of color in business and how did you overcome them?
I was writing an answer to someone. So how did we overcome them? It's an easy one, but also a difficult one. And I'll tell you why, because I don't think you ever overcome them completely in terms of how the world sees you, because you'll always be a woman, and every new partner, supplier, bank partner that you will meet, you will be seen as a woman, of course. And if they do have some biases and a lot of préjugés, they will judge you based on that. So I think one of the things that have helped me is really focusing on what I was doing and focusing on the goal. At this time, again, the goal was to make it happen inside 15 years. So I really wanted to get everything done inside that time frame. And just also, I touched on that a little bit before, realizing that there was systemic discrimination, systemic racism, and just realizing that there's a problem. I won't say, and I know that's a very delicate subject or way of viewing things, but once you realize that it is an issue, it is a problem, that way it sort of tells you, oh, okay, so that's the problem. So it's not personal to Deborah Cher Enfant per se, it's really the system. So that actually makes it easier for me to say, oh, you're going to be confronted with that aspect, and that just makes me get prepared even more. So if I were to say coloré is a line of accessories made of African fabric, I would lose some elements of wording to promote the aspect, because I know that as soon as some jury members, some bank people will hear African, they'll say, oh no, not a lot of market potential. I don't think that would be something that could benefit from funding. So that, as soon as I realized that was an issue, I started to, the word that I'm gonna use, I'm trying to find a better word, and I started to accept it in a way to prepare myself more to be able to confront it and go around it, because I knew I had to obtain that goal and make that happen. So I know it wasn't personal. So I don't know if it was the same for you, Abisara, and if you still struggle with that aspect today.
I definitely do. It was not the same. I got into the game very, very much aware of systemic racism and sexism and being intertwined, and me feeling the effects every day. I felt it's been a really rough road about that. And I think we're just talking about funding. We're talking about how to get to finances. And I think especially in that aspect, I felt being a Black woman more than ever, being constantly underestimated, being constantly pushed. And like you said, Franz, as in, we do get less funding, we do have less access, and our businesses very often are very local or very small, or we don't think or act big enough. But part of the reason is also that it's really super hard in the small realm we're trying to progress. So I smashed bank doors not only once, I smashed them numerous times, because it was pretty infuriating on how you get treated. And I'm in a typical Black woman niche, a hair salon. So all they do imagine is like hair and extensions flying around and people eating while braiding. And you can literally see the visions that they have and why they think you don't have any chance. On the other hand, I also like, that's something I think that is just real talk, that's just going to be part of your reality. And that's, I do believe that we are, and I want to be so optimistic about this moment right now, opening up new chances, opening up new doors. But I do think it's important to stay somehow aware of, you know, of systemic racism. It's not just going to go away as I'm not all just fluffy and beautiful right now. What definitely did change is that we are more, meaning there are many more other spaces we can connect with. Black women, Black entrepreneurs, Group 3737. There's so many more spaces that are actually interested in helping Black women entrepreneurs out. And that's beautiful, because this is really where I think real change is sustainable and possible. And yeah, I think it's something to be constantly underestimated, but it's also a weapon that you can use as a Black woman. I felt that it's not only us, how do you say, in front of the white racist world, but it's also internal, right? So we also facing racism being, sexism as a dynamic that we have with our own team. So I find being underestimated kind of forces you to become, again, resourceful, very aware of what leadership means to us. And then realizing that the qualities that I identify, that I associate with leaders, are very male, very patriarchal, actually. They're very much based in a notion of be hard, you have to be fair, you have to be very objective. There's no space for emotions. There's no space for you know, compassion. Obviously, a lot of things are changing, but I think it is women and Black women who make a huge change within that realm of leadership. So what does Black holistic or feminine leadership mean today? How can we create spaces where employees and team members can be vulnerable, and where tears are not seen as un signe de faiblesse, like a sign of weakness, but actually as an emotional you know, way. And actually I am happy, or almost feel flattered, that you feel safe enough to share your emotions with me. So for me, it forces me constantly, and I'm so glad and happy about that, to rethink and readjust my tools, my skill sets, my way of approaching situations and approaching people. And I'm dealing mostly with women. So all of those, understanding that I'm not trying to be a white male leader, but I'm trying to be a Black woman leader, and creating a new model gives me endless opportunities. And I think if you're in front of those endless opportunities, you can become really creative about it. And that's actually something that is beautiful to me. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. Franz, I have a question for you, and it is, what are your best advices to navigate the STEM spaces that are underrepresented, excuse me? How do you keep yourself motivated?
I was actually typing an answer to that question, but the short answer is, the first thing is, it's a very closed industry if you're not in the network. So you've got to find these incubation programs, acceleration programs. Universities usually are a good place to start. Find out what current programs they have at the universities. But if not, whether it's incubators like Group 3737, Le Santec, Défi Montréal, Entreprise. I mean, there are tons of, or if you're more in the AI space, whether that may be a Creative Destruction Lab, it may be Next AI, Scale AI. There's a number of, or access to Ivado Labs, or other organizations that really are focused on the STEM. If you're on the outside looking in, it's very difficult. You have to be part of these ecosystems. The second thing I would suggest is, if you intend to start a business in that space, is go directly on these websites, apply for those, because they are looking for minority founders. And again, now is the time. So, submit even if you're not a scientist, actually, they will pair you with a data scientist or with a researcher. So just as long as you have a good idea, you have a good view of where you want to take it, there's an opportunity, because they're looking for minorities. And might I say, there are minorities in STEM. They're just not Black, not enough Blacks, but there are. you know, people from the Middle East, people from Southeast Asia, you know, there's lots of representation. Latin Americans, they're there, not enough Black folks.
Next question, and Dexter, I'll start with you. I would like to hear all of your thoughts on how much of your budget should you spend on marketing at the start when you're starting up your business?
Wow, lots. And again, back to this, we're in this really cool time right now where marketing is available to everyone if you just know how to really weaponize or use all of these tools that are available. We're in a very digital world. It could be social media, and then, you know, I think businesses and investors will look at a company or a brand that has 50,000 followers as much as they will a company that has a very strong top line revenue. So when you're thinking about how do you share your story or what's the story that you want to tell, then marketing to me is a big word. There's growth marketing that's in that, with everything that has to do with digital marketing, Google AdWords, search, SEO, SEM. So there's sort of that piece. There's social, which is a huge part and very easy to do, and frankly, not that difficult to do very, very well. There's community-based marketing, which I think is extremely important, thinking about making these really strong human connections, one-on-one or two-on-two. You know, you're looking at IGTV, people showing recipes. There's so many different ways to be able to market your company and your brand without spending a tremendous amount of money. And so I don't think people should think about this in the traditional way of, oh, I've got to take 30 or 40% of my budget and put it towards marketing dollars. I don't think that's the right idea. I think the right idea is to say, this is my idea, this is my vision, where's my customer, and then how do I interact and engage with that customer. It's much more about engagement. It's got a lot less to do with just, you know, flooding the market with that sort of old school traditional ad or billboard that we used to know. And it's all about one-on-one engagement, micro communities, and then thinking about having those communities start amplifying your stories. That happens very easily through social media because it just amplifies. And it happens very easy digitally as well too. So I would say, use digital more than analog, just because when you're thinking scale, just anecdotally, we started a company, we're in the middle of COVID-19, 30% of my business is in California, and I haven't been able to get onto a plane into California. Franz knows that in my old life, we used to travel the whole world for business. Now you don't have to, but you can make connections in California through a digital communication strategy. So it's about being smart about marketing as opposed to being big about marketing. But to be smart about marketing, you have to understand the data, know your customer, know them well intimately, face à face, but also know them through the data, which will teach you so much more about who those people are. So get online early. Every little piece of data is an incremental piece of data that will teach you more about your customer, what they want, what they need, what they like, what they care about, and what they'll buy next time.
Another question for, and anybody could answer. How do you make people feel like they need your services?
I mean, you know, I can take a crack at it. I mean, it's a very generic question. You know, for me, whatever business I'm in, I spend a lot of time studying the business, getting to understand who are the customers, what do they want, what do they care, what are their pain points, what problems they need to solve. So in my mind, you need to get that level of intimacy. Once you understand, then you're able to define a product or a service that customers will want to buy because you know the customers well. So in the case of Abisara, for example, I know she's passionate about hair, but she's also passionate about the products that goes into the hair. So the hair. So it's not just about the hair side. She's also passionate about understanding the customers. I know because my wife's the customer. So about the customers and getting to know them to a personal level. So it's no longer about the service or the product. It's actually, she's looking forward to seeing Abisara, which is, you know, so a lot of the celebrity chefs, for example, you know, it's not about their food. It's all about everything but the food. But you talk about the chef, but a lot of people know Chef Gordon, but you've never tasted his product. But you assume it must be good because Chef Gordon says it's good, right? I mean, fundamentally, it's all about understanding your business and creating that value based on your understanding of the customer's pain points or really what makes them tick. So it varies from industry to industry, but it's the same.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to that as well, as in, if you start off, how can I convince my customer to continue, why my business is important? Maybe it's easier to turn it around and ask yourself, how can you serve your customer? Because it's really very clear, and I think Franz said it, we are trying, as entrepreneurs, we are trying to serve the market. We are trying to serve our customer. So it's to try to convince somebody will take so much marketing, so much effort, that at the end, your product, first of, like, once you have convinced the person, your product has to be so brilliant because you already convinced them. So you have so many blockages lying up, against you. It's too much effort. That's just way too much effort. I would really turn it around and ask myself, what does my customer really need? Take more time before developing your product in researching your customer. And like Franz said about the pain points of your customer, ask the right questions. What hurts you and how can I be of service to you? How can I help? I think that might make it easier.
All right, Deborah, I will give you the last word.
Word?
We're gonna break out after, and there'll be more time for discussion after this. I'm gonna give you the last word for this portion.
And I think what I may want to add to that question and everything that was said before, brilliantly said by my co-panelists, I think you also have to be convinced of your product or service, because if you're unsure of something that you're providing to the market, I don't think you're going to be able to convince anyone. But to Abby Sarah's point, it takes so much effort, money, energy to convince someone. You might as well take it the other way and look at what the market needs right now and how are you able to provide it, and also be convinced of the solution that you're going to be providing to the market and the ecosystem. And I think I do hope that you'll be joining us for the breakout sessions. And I think as a last word, keywords I think that were exchanged in this panel were opportunity, vision, boldness, I would say, and continue to be yourselves. And I think that's very important in any enterprise endeavor that you take on. And the fact that we are in COVID times, Dexter was just mentioning that he used to travel a lot for business. Right now, we're kind of stuck here in Montreal. Not that that's a bad thing, but we don't have all those options that we used to have beforehand. So we have to make the best of it, because thank the universe, we're healthy and we're here tonight. So I think we do need to make the best of the situation, especially as we're going into fall and we don't know if what's going to happen in the next month, if Montreal is going to turn to red. So we might as well start working and get those ideas in shape and make the best out of every situation.
All right, thank you to all of you.
Can I make
something really quickly?
15 seconds?
Yeah, for sure.
There are two things you can do right now that will make a huge impact. Okay, the first thing is you got to rally around what's working. What is working right now is there's lots of initiatives around, supporting Black businesses, from government all the way down to businesses. You got to rally around them. So the fact that we're here tonight, all of us, that's fantastic. So there's the Black North initiatives, there's the Black Opportunity Funds. These are nationwide projects. Be there, because representation matters. And then the second thing is, obviously, one of the reasons why the government was able to bespoke $221 million is because your voice matters. So when you go vote, it makes a difference. I don't want to make this a political, but the reality is, if you don't go vote, the next government that comes into place, they won't renew that $221 million. And so it's important that you know that every voice matters, and being present has an impact.
Those are great last words. Thank you very much, Franz.